Okay, everyone. Today we want to talk about teaching reading to different age groups, including adults, teenagers, and children. Okay, so what are we going to discuss today? We talk about learning environment like synchronous and asynchronous. What's the difference? Learners' age range, ease with technology, flipped classroom, collaborative projects. So maybe you teach online or in person. And even when you teach online, it's like now. Okay? Like now. Means at the time, teacher and students both are present, which is synchronous. And asynchronous is a time that you record or you upload the material, and students, based on their time, they go and check and do the activities and upload the activities, or they send an email, which is asynchronous, which you have in your modules. So you have all the material and you have the videos on YouTube. And based on your time and pace of reading or your pace, you go and study and do the activities. So both are possible on online classes or online courses. And how to teach different skills, as we discussed for speaking and conversation, for all the skills is different for different age groups. We have different activities, and in general, let me tell you, in general, the process is the same. Like uh, what you do at first, pre-teaching task, while teaching task, and post-teaching task. So basically, in process part, how you prepare your students, how you present the lesson, then how you practice and then get feedback, and the bigger picture, this is the same for all age groups, but activities is different. And even it's different for different levels that we're going to discuss during the webinar. And if you use technology like laptop, different apps, okay? So what is important is that your students know how to use it. Your students should know how to use that app. So it's much better before starting the course. You have one session with your students and just explain everything, the schedule, how to do the homework, or no, how to send the homework, or how to upload the homework, or how can they access to the material, how to use the like the platform that you use if you are on Zoom. So how can they use it? Different features on Zoom or any platform that you use. So it's good to have time with each of your students to be sure that they know how to use the platform. And flip classroom. If you remember on our last webinar for conversation and speaking, I said that sometimes you need to email or send or even upload the material or some part of the material for your students to make them prepare for the session. Like the example I gave you, if the speaking or the reading is about Japan, and your students, they have no idea about Japan. So you have to go through the text, and your students have no idea. So what happened? If they come to the class with no information, can they participate in class discussions or doing the activities? No, they just listen. And the class is going to be very boring for them and they get bored. So maybe it's a good idea you show them a short video about Japan. So when they get to the class, they have a concept what's going on in the session. So they are prepared to participate, because we know the golden key is from beginning to the end, engage our students. correct? So they need to have some ideas. Even if it's like a discussion class or at the college level. So students need to use a specific grammar or a specific jargons that, or they need to know what's the meaning. You have a like film discussion class. So you can send a list of the vocabulary or even the grammar point to them before coming to the class. So that we call it flipping. So you flip, you send it before the session to make them ready for the session. And even sometimes you, based on their the feedback that you get in the class, you prepare more worksheets or assignment, and you just send them after the class. Just it's a connection between home and class, home and class. Just coming to the class 2 times a week, like for 1 hour. So maybe it takes a long time, right? Uh, and they get disconnected from the class. So it takes a long time to learn. But if during the course, there's a way that the students have a chance to get connected with the teacher. If they have any questions, they can send an email. If you want to check something with them, there's an app or there's a platform. So it's give them a kind of self-confidence that they're in a process of learning, and definitely has a better outcome. Collaborative projects. One of the characteristics of 21st century for our students is collaborative activities. If they have a chance to do a project, and even you can see in the modern books, there are group working, project working. So why they get involved with a project? Number one, they have a chance for communication. Number two, they have a chance for review and thinking about the target language, what they have learned. So it's a good idea for them to practice. Actually, they can be creative and you work on their critical thinking as well. So while they are thinking over it on and on, it helps them to remember it better and learn it better. So give them projects not too difficult at the level of their ability and their knowledge, and put them in groups to do that project. Meanwhile, to understand your students better, there's a sense of empathy, means put yourself in their shoes. And I always recommend, especially to new teachers, why don't you starting to teach in front of a mirror and see yourself, see your body language, see your facial expression, and even you can see how well you use your hands or your body, or you listen to yourself and say, is it understandable? And then think over it. Can my understand it? Can my students understand it? What can I change to make it better? Just put yourself in their shoes. Always it works if you make things simple and clear. So, as we discussed before, CCQ, concept checking questions, really help. That check with your students if they understood what you taught them or what you've told them. So make it simple, make it clear, give them examples and explain it to them, show it to them, and just make it easier for them to understand. Don't explain everything too much. Just provide practical steps to tasks. When you give them an example, or when you step by step, you were beside your students and do the activity together, it's more understandable for them. And ICQ also is another element of the class, which is very important. Instruction checking questions. So when you give them instruction, check with them that if they understood, and ask them to tell you the steps. So what you're going to do first, and then, and what about after that? Just be sure your students understand the instructions very well. Give them advice how to study. You know your students and you are the expert person in the class. So you can give your students ideas. How can they improve their ability or their knowledge in the language or in the target language? For children, definitely you need to give report to the family too, because they're under family observation. So be organized, have a portfolio, write down what's happening, how well they improve, the students improve, and give report card even to the parents. Okay, what else is good to remember? Let's review 21st century learners' characteristics. We need to remember that the C's, mhm, like communication, put them in pairs, put them in groups, let them communicate, let them talk. Some people need, that's a way of learning. Some people need to talk to learn, to talk over the issue, over the subject to learn it better. Some people needs to do an activity, you know, hands in, they needs to do an activity like collaboration, doing a project, making a poster, like, or creating a conversation. So they need to role play, collaboration. Then creativity. We never put our students in the box that just like a robot, you give them step by step what to do. Let them be creative. Let them think over it and decide. So you give them the frame, okay, the bigger frame, but let them be creative. How to do the activity or how to make it better in the way that they understand it better. Mm-hmm. Let me give you an example. Like if you're working on second conditional, you can ask them, picture their ideal house. Then explain it to you. And then tell you the idea why or the reason why they like it better. So they can be creative how to make it. Maybe they make a presentation on PowerPoint. Maybe they draw it. Maybe they start to talk about it. Maybe they bring a picture for this, you know? And critical thinking. Teacher is not a person over there to answer all the questions. Teacher is a person that helps the students to find out. Okay? Teacher is a person that guides the students. And of course, teacher is the person that does her or his best to help the students to learn better. But teacher is not a dictionary in the class. Let them think. So that's the autonomy that we always talk about. Let the students autonomy. So let the students take their responsibility, okay, to research, to think, to search for it, to talk, work in the groups and find out. That's the characteristics of education, right? So an educator is a person who search for it, okay? Who not memorize, but try to understand. And the idea of citizenship here means they are part of the world. So they have to study about the world. They have to learn how to communicate, how to work together, which is team working and group working. There are two ways of thinking skills, lots and huts. Any ideas? So LOTS stands for low order thinking skills, which means remembering, mhm, understanding, and applying. So they remember or they memorize a dialogue. They understand where to use it, or they read the conversation, where to use the conversation, or they read a text and summarize it and apply it. So use the information in a new form. Okay? Like they read something and make a conversation. That's low order thinking skills. But high order thinking skills, HUTS, lots and HUTS. HUTS goes for creating, evaluating, and analyzing. So they use the information to create something new. Mhm. They have the information that, like, they back to that second conditional. They know what is second conditional. They create a story. They do write an essay, you know? Then they write a poem and use second conditional or a list of vocabulary. Evaluating goes to critical thinking. So they judge what's the best word to use, or what's the best structure to use, or what's the best topic, or like how to talk in this situation. Register. Is it formal, informal? How to talk, or how they can support what they mention in the discussion, and which idea to choose, and how to support that option. Analyzing means take information and apart and explore relationships to categorize, like positive and negative words, right? So, or like talking about mean and generous. So they put it in two categories: comparing, contrasting, learning about the antonym and synonym, right? So that's a higher order thinking skill. So in this way, on the other, maybe we can say the other word that we can use it, they own the language. They feel it. They use it easily in their daily life. So when the students get to that higher order thinking skills, they understand how to use the target language and when to use it or what's the best way to use it. They become fluent and accurate. Otherwise, they memorize it and they understand and apply it, which is good at the lower level. But when you get to the higher level, they have to get to higher order thinking skills and they never forget it. When they get to that level, they never forget it. So, how can we plan for the class? We need to set SMART goals. I mean, by setting SMART goals, each letter stands for something. Like specific. It should be clear what the students learn in this session. We had a touch on how to write your lesson plan. Actually, we're going to have a session an writing lesson plan. So terminal objectives and enabling objectives. So terminal objectives should be very clear and specific. So what happened at the end of this session? What the students will learn. Mm-hmm. And measurable. So you should understand how well your students learn it. Are they accurate? Are they fluent? Can they use it in their daily life? I need to practice more with my students. And what percentage of students learn it? Measurable. And the goal that you put for the class for the one session should be achievable. Like if I write, students need to finish the storybook and summarize it, it's impossible to finish a story like 40 pages or 50 pages in a session. So it should be achievable. The goal should be achievable and realistic. Yes, realistic. Not we put some goals for each session, which is hard to achieve and which is hard for students to remember. Even you finish it, it's hard for students to remember and use it. So it's not realistic. It's too hard for that level, or maybe it's too easy for that level. And it should be timely. So for each activity, we need to set a time. Like for reading, I need 30 minutes, which is good actually. But it's impossible to do a reading or to teach a reading in the class in 10 minutes. No. Even if I teach it, even a teacher teaches it for like 10 minutes, it's not, maybe it is achievable, but the students learn nothing, right? So it should be timely too. So the main strategy, Back to what I said, the main strategy of modern education should focus on students' independent activity, right? Each session we talk about the students' autonomy. They get their responsibility, right? And so the teacher helps them to understand. Like they give them their tools and we teach how to use these tools. But it's their creativity, how to fix the thing or how to make something. So the organization of self-learning environment. So they study by themselves, they work with the classmates, and practical training. So task-based learning. Mhm. We give them projects to do. So they can choose. They have options to choose based on their interests or ability, and they plan for it. And the environment should be very comfortable, not as stressful. They can trust and they can be comfortable in the class. This is very information for children and teenagers, actually. If they are under stress and pressure, they cannot focus to learn. Maybe they don't say anything, but since they don't trust, it's very hard for them to learn. And the good thing is, even you back to your memory, you remember the classes that you enjoy a lot. So let they enjoy the class and learn. And I promise they can remember and learn it much better. Mm-hmm. You can have different involvement in the class, like teacher-student interaction. You can ask them questions. Then you put them in pairs, like student-student interaction. Give them time to practice, give them time to think over it, over the new subject. Sometimes you use audios and visuals like videos, AVA, audio visual aids in the class, which is fun. Choose the like choose the videos that is related to their interests. Mm-hmm. And demonstration and exercises like role plays, games. They love games, all levels, all age groups. Games like project doing, these kind of activities, they love it. And all students can involve. So basically, the important tips is when you get to the class, don't forget to have your toolbox. What I mean by toolbox is we have different learners in the class. Some of my learners are visual, some of my learners are auditory, some likes reading and writing, or some likes like role play, kinesthetic. Okay, games. So I have toolbox, some activity for each, worksheets, like videos, posters, games, audios, music in the class, singing together. So for all age groups, you have some activity. For all learning styles, you have some activities. Everybody enjoy and they have the opportunity to learn it better. We need to study a lot. We need to take courses. We need to go through different workshops to be up to date as teachers. Let let them be independent. Teach them how to search and how to do the activity with not all the time attached to the teacher. Okay? Just teach them if they need help, they can ask, but let's them try, not memorize and follow. Let them be creative, collaborate in working in the groups or consulting, thinking together, and let them be creative. Now, that was the general picture. Let's focus on the reading. We have two types of reading in general, intensive reading and extensive reading. correct? So what's the difference? In intensive reading, it's a form of silent reading. You know, in real life, we usually read everything silently, correct? We don't read when you read something. If you want to read it for a group, that's a different story. But for yourself, you read it silently. Even you read it aloud. When you want to talk about it, you have to go through it again. You ask your students to read it aloud, which is fine. You want to check the intonation or pronunciation. That's okay. But if you want to ask comprehension questions, you need to give them time to go through it once silently. This is the way that they can remember and they can answer to the question and basically they can understand it. Okay. So intensive reading is a form of silent reading in which the learner is focused on the language rather than the text. Like, for example, the learner may be answering comprehension questions, learning new vocabulary, studying grammar and expression in the test, or even translating the text. Okay? So, intensive reading are the readings in the course books. They learn vocabulary and grammar. And you talk about the idea of the text, even they summarize it for you. Extensive reading is another kind of silent reading by individual students of long, interesting texts, such as the stories or novels. And it's sometimes known or reading for pleasure. So they study it to improve their language. They choose the subject, they choose the book by themselves. And you discuss it in the class, but basically you give them the option to choose like one stories at the level of understanding. The extensive reading basically is based on pleasure, but intensive reading like the readings that they need to study in the class. That's a difference. So what happened? Or why we have two kinds of reading, like intensive and extensive. In intensive reading, mostly we work on accuracy, also fluency. They learn new vocabulary, so we work on linguistic purpose, like new vocabulary and new grammar and comprehension. But extensive is mostly based on their interests. So it's good for their fluency. And then they learn some new words, but mostly they work on comprehension. Like when they read a novel, they come and talk about, you can ask your students to talk about the character or why they like it or what happened. But you never ask them to do the activity or answer to the questions. In intensive reading, you do. So what are the steps for teaching intensive reading is number one, always when you want to teach, you start with warm up. So what's the warm up? You help your students to be in the context. If the text is about like different countries, you can ask them, what's your favorite country? Or why do you like that country? What is special about that country? You put them in the context. Maybe you started with a quiz. Mm-hmm. What's the capital city of England? And they say, oh, London, or what about France? And they say Paris. So you start talking about countries, put them in the context. Then you have the text, the reading. You need to go through the reading and see if there are some key words that help your students to understand the text. Let me give you an example. Like if the reading is about how to make strawberry jam. How to make strawberry jam. And step by step in the context, it explains how to make the strawberry jam. But your students don't know the meaning of strawberry. They don't know the meaning of jam, right? Could they understand anything? Because these are the key words. The key words are the words in the text that by knowing those words, you can get the idea of the text. Another word for it is block words. Means if you don't know the meaning of those keywords, you cannot understand the text. So if you go through the text and you see there are some words that your students don't know, and they are very important for understanding the text, we need to pre-teach those vocabulary or those words. So you have your warm up, then you put the students in the context, then pre-teach the keywords, not all the words. Why? Because we want to give our students a chance to guess the meaning. We all the time talk, let the students be independent. Let them try. Let them take the responsibility of learning. So in the text, they can guess the meaning. Like chop. They see the picture and they go through the things. They can understand, oh, chopping makes it like too small or tiny thing. Or like add. Then they look at the picture and they can guess the meaning. What's the meaning of add? But a strawberry, oh, it's good to show them the picture and say that is a strawberry. And today we want to read about how to make a strawberry jam. And then you show them strawberry jam because they are the keywords. Okay. So pre-teach the keywords. And what's number 3? We give them a chance to go through the text once and try to understand what is said. For lower level, you need to play the audio. Because usually for lower level, there's an audio. Even if there's no audio, it's good to read for them. They look at the text and they listen to you. Because they are lower levels, maybe they have some problems in pronunciation. So it's good they listen to the correct pronunciation. Like they're learning French, they don't know how to pronounce the words. So it's good they listen to the audio or to the teacher to understand the pronunciation. You can ask very general comprehension questions, like yes, no questions, or matching, or labeling, put the pictures in the order based on the text, or match each paragraph to the picture, Then, so warm up, put the students in the context, and then pre-teach the vocabulary. Just go through the text once, and then while reading activities, it's the activities that you go through the details, like checking the meaning of the words, working on the structure, and if there's a new structure, or like grammar, and give a student some questions to scan and find. Okay, go through the details. Just be sure your students understand everything. And for post-reading activities, the part that you get the feedback. But extensive is very different. Extensive means pleasure in reading. So what I usually do is for their level, I say these 3 storybooks is at your level. Some of the storybooks, like back of the storybook, it said what level is it or what age group it's good for. Even there, if you cannot find like that, like Oxford are like levelized for different level. But if you can go through the storybooks and see how difficult it is or how easy. Maybe you find different material or like authentic material online and share it with your students. So you give them an option. and say, okay, these three or these four storybooks is at your level. Now look at them and tell me which one do you want to choose. You give them options because it's based on their pleasure, and they need to read it at home. So it's good that they like the book, they like the genre. So maybe one of them said, I like that book. It's like a detective book or drama, or I don't know, any kinds of the book that between these four, they can choose. Okay. The book or the storybook or even the authentic materials, it should be one step easier than their level. Why? Because if it's too difficult, if there are so many new words, they get bored, they get frustrated. Oh my gosh, how many new words? Like they're studying French and they are level 3. They don't know that many words. So the storybook or the reading should be a bit easier because we're working on their fluency. While they read it, they should understand like 70 to 80% of the story. Then they can come to the class and talk about the character, talk about the events that happened in the class. So they read it at home, then they come to the class. You get the feedback in the class. So when you want to ask your students to start the storybooks, it's good to show them the book. Or for lower level, definitely there should be pictures. Okay. For higher level, like talk about the topic. Which topic do you want to read? Why? If you show them the storybook, ask about the cover and say, what can you see on the cover? Okay. Can you guess what's happening? Can you guess the story? So I want you to read it for next time, like 10 pages for next week, and then come to the class and talk about the character. Ask them questions. Teachers should show their enthusiasm to the students. When they see how enthusiastic you are, you encourage your students, you give them motivation to study. Okay? But if you don't care and say, okay, I want everybody to read the books, next time you have a quiz and then you give them paper, still you assess them, but you couldn't encourage them to read. Nowadays people don't like to read. They want to see like movies, like short videos. But reading is good for learning. Reading is good for learning and improving their writing. So to encourage them, we teachers need to show our enthusiasm, like asking the question. Tell me about the characters. Tell me how it starts. Which part do you like most? What happened? And then I take notes. For my students, I usually take notes. And then because it's very hard to remember all the stories that the studio, like you have 20 students, how is it possible to remember it? But when you put notes, next session, I go through my notes and keep asking them questions. So what happened to Sarah in your story? Then they become excited too. Wow, my teacher remembers, So it's good to do that. So when I said first, give them after to pre-teach the vocabulary. So we put them in the context, we pre-teach the keywords. And I said, give them time to go through the text once. We call it a skimming. So skimming is a reading technique to get the gist of the reading. They go through it to get the main idea. So they can read the title and they can guess what's it about. They can read the introduction or first paragraph and they understand what's the text about. Even for each paragraph, they can read the first sentence and get the overall idea of the text. Like when you read the magazine or newspaper, you go through the headings and subheadings, you get the idea. Then the headings which is interesting for you, you go through the whole thing, right? That is scheming. So when I said we use scheming for intensive reading, First, you give a chance to the students to go through it and they understand what's it about. What's the main idea? What's the gist of the reading? For lower level, we play the audio. At the same time, they go through it and they listen to the audio to improve their pronunciation. If they don't know any words, tell them underline the words that you have problems, okay, or you don't understand the meaning. When it's over, okay, I'll answer it to you. So tell them, no worries. After the audio, or give them 5 minutes, you have 5 minutes, you go through it, then you can ask me your questions. What is next? So put them in the context, pre-teach the keywords, scheming, let the students go through it and ask very general questions or labeling, matching, just to check their general understanding. But that's intensive reading, means the reading that they need to learn truly. So what is the another technique is the scanning. We need to give them some specific questions or true false questions, true false sentences, I'm sorry. So students need to scan to find the answer. They have to go through it again and look for a specific word, a specific sentence to understand. Is the given sentence true or false? Or how to answer to the questions. Okay? So they're looking for a specific information. You can put them in pairs or in groups to do that, which is fine. Even you can ask them some detailed questions. So they have to go through the paragraph. It's not just checking through the headings. No, they have to go through the paragraph. That is a scanning or detailed questions to go through the detailed information. What's more, we have two models of reading, top down and bottom up. So what is it? Basically, it means that sometimes you want your students comprehend what happened in the text or what's this text about based on their previous information, or when you put them in the context, you teach them you pre-teach the keywords, or you ask some general question through scheming, and then specific questions about the context through scanning or detailed questions. They get the idea, what is this reading about? They get the idea what's the main aim of this context. That model calls top down. So they read it and they understand the text and the message. Top down. But in intensive reading, it's not only comprehension like extensive reading. No. Intensive reading, they need to learn the vocabulary. They need to learn the function. They need to practice the structure. So decoding, understanding the words, right? That is bottom up. Okay? Oh, and that's a typo here, guys. It's a bottom down. No, bottom up. That's my mistake. So top down and bottom up means in top down, you work on a bigger picture, but in bottom up, you work on words. Okay, let me correct it here. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me correct it here. It's better because since it's recording, I don't want here. So, in bottom up, you're working on words, on linguistic part, like on functions, on structures, which is important in intensive reading. Okay, so what's more? To encourage your students, especially adults or teenagers, we have KWL table. So if the reading is about countries, you can ask them, what do you know about countries? What do you know about your own country? Do you know about the environment? Do you know about the provinces or states or cities? Do you know about weather? What do you know about your country? Just put it in like on bullets. What do you want to know more? Like this session, we are going to study about Japan. What do you like to know about Japan? They put some questions. Very good. So you encourage them to read. You can go there and ask, okay, tell me, what do you want to know? What do you want to know? You want to know about the population. You want to know about the food, local food. You want to know about the weather. Very good. You want to know about the economy. You want to know about currency. So guys, let's skim it. They go through it and let's see what you learn. They learn a little bit because it's a skimming, right? So they get the bigger pictures, top down. Then you ask a specific question, the scanning and the find it. There's some functions that say, do you know what it means? Yeah, or there are some words, you check the meaning with your students. After scanning and answering to detailed questions, so I said, I want you to write down what you've learned. So it's like a review, it's like a review that students understood how well they learn it or still they have a problem. Sure, sure.
Oh, it's turning
Okay.
back on?
No, everything is okay.
Oh, okay.
Like what? Let's check. What I said was for adults and teenagers. We'll
Okay.
always mention children as well. So what about the children? So definitely we put them in the context first. Like the reading is about weather. We start talking with them. Okay, what's your favorite kind of weather? How's the weather now? Oh, in your country, what's the weather like in fall or winter? Or which season do you like more? And, or even which season is your birthday? So they are in the context and they understand, oh, we are talking about weather. Then we need to pre-teach the keywords. Like they don't know raining, windy, snowy, sunny, hot, cold, and like wet. So when they understand, we show them the pictures, they repeat and they repeat the words and they get familiar with the pronunciation and even the how to spell it. They have the idea of the keywords. What's next step? For children, definitely you have to play the audio. So while they are looking at the text, they listen to the audio as well because they need to learn the pronunciation. It's easy here because it's in English, but imagine it was French. So they had no idea how to read it. So it's good to listen to it. What's next? They know the keywords, they understand it, and they listen to the audio. Then you give time to go through it again and answer very general questions. Okay? So how's the weather at 9 o'clock? Go through the text and find it. Or what can you do in the afternoon? Then you can give them some sentences with blanks. That is a scanning with blanks and say, I want you to go through the text and fill in the blanks. So they have to find this word which is fixed in the blanks and it's correct for the blanks. You can put them in pairs or in groups to find the word. So you give them time to practice. At the end, after checking and you check, monitor them and check with these students, then you show them a picture and say, look at picture one. Can you talk about picture one? And say, yes, it's in the morning and it's raining. People get wet. Very good. Look at picture two. So students start to talk about the picture. In process, in your lesson plan. So we always need to write what you're going to do for different stages, like pre-task activity. How do you put your students in the context? Do you need to pre-teach the vocabulary? Which words and how? Okay. How do you present? How do you start the activity? Then while task or while teaching task, how students practice together. Pair working, how's the interaction? Is it teacher student, student students, or group working? What's the activity? What about the visual learner? What about the auditory learner? What do you have for kinesthetic ones? Do you have role plays, conversation, like games? How do you practice with that? Mm-hmm. Do you have worksheets for read and write group? So how they practice? And then post teaching task. So the practice, teacher monitors, you check everything with the students, fine. Now how do you get the feedback? So post teaching task is a part the students learn to use the target language in their real life. So they start talk about the weather, their favorite weather, what the weather is like in winter. So they use the words like windy, sunny, snowy in their real life, and you get the feedback. Definitely, you have to mention what's next. So what they learn in the class, they need to practice at home. So what is the homework? What's the assignment?
Mm.
Okay. This is the different stages that we need to mention in the process on your lesson plan. And for each activity, what's the interaction like? Student, student, group work, teamwork, teacher, student, how's it? Individual work and time. So how much time for presentation? How much time for practice part? And what's the time, how much time for feedback? Okay, production part. If you want to give the students like 30 minutes for reading, so how much, 10 minutes for presentation, 15 minutes for practice, and only 5 minutes for production, or no, 5, 10. So it should be logical, and you need to have the track of time. Otherwise, it's just finished and you haven't finished the text yet, right? For children also, we have extensive reading and intensive reading. Intensive reading is specifically reading texts that they have in their book and they need to go through it and learn the words and the structure. Extensive, like reading for pleasure, like storybooks. Like different storybooks. For that level, you introduce 3, 4 books and say, which one do you like more? This book is about teddy bear. This book is about flower garden. This book is about mom. So which one do you want to read? Okay, let's look at the picture. Who are these people on the cover? Can you tell me for next time? Okay, what happened here? Can you read it and tell me the first 10 pages and tell me for next time? So we ask them some questions. And the good thing which is very important, for children, all the books is audio. As we said, they need to learn the pronunciation as well. So usually storybooks for children has audio part too, which is very important.
Hmm.
Yes.
So in the what we have to produce, the learning activities. So so we get to choose, which audience, and then we decide on how we're going to present, the teaching material.
Exactly. What's the level of your students? What's the level of the students? And then you have to mention what's the age group. Like 10 years old or adult. For adult, over 18, you say adult.
Okay.
But for teenagers and children, it's very different. Like the way that you teach to 7 to 9 is very different from 15 to 17, right? Because they have different, even their abilities are different.
Okay.
Yeah. So that you need to mention it. For reading, for children especially, like 6, 7, we always start from alphabet reading. Okay, so phonetics, like how to pronounce e, right? What's the main pronunciation? Or like C, the main pronunciation is K, like cat, coat.
And
So
we
we
don't do
need
this
to,
for adults.
for what?
We can't use something similar, to this, like for adults. I mean,
Yeah, of course. Like when you teach French, definitely you have to do that.
right.
Right. Even for adults or teenagers. Right. Exactly. So we started for how to pronounce letters, then two letters, then three letters. Little by little, they learn how to pronounce word, then a sentence. How to pronounce a sentence. Now, questions, affirmative sentences. So different intonation. Yes, step by steps. This is one for this is an example for children or maybe lower levels like starters for teenagers and adult. Match the paragraph. This is a good practice for scheming. So you put them in a context. What do you usually do during the week? Typical routine on Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesdays. So when they are in the context, you say, okay, you look at it and say, are there any new words? No. Oh, maybe favorite. Okay, maybe favorite. So say, what kind of dessert do you like most? And say, I like ice cream. I like cheesecake. Oh, so cheesecake is your favorite dessert. Ice cream is your favorite dessert. What color do you like? And so I like red. Red is your favorite. Okay. Everybody repeat favorite, favorite. This is how you write it. So that means pre-teach the keywords. Because later you want to ask them, what's your favorite day? And then I say, what's favorite? You know?
Hmm.
So you give them time for scheming. They go through it. If there is an audio, play the audio. And then you say, match the paragraph with the picture. This is general comprehension. When they read it, they say, oh, which picture goes for it? So this part, the boxes, goes for scheming. Then they need to find the answer for each question, specific answer. So that is a scanning. That is, and they go through the text to find the answer. That is a scanning. This is practice while reading task. So what's next? When it's finished, it said, okay, talk about your week. Talk about your favorite day. Talk about Saturdays. Talk about Wednesdays. They learn to talk about their real life. That's the feedback part, production part. Okay?
Yeah.
Many teachers ask me, is it good to ask the students to read aloud? Yeah, why not? Sometimes you want your students to read it for you, but at the whole text, just imagine you have 10 students, 10 times they read it, it's going to be very boring. But maybe specific sentences, you ask them to read it for you to check their pronunciation and intonation, which is fine. But usually, for understanding better, people read silently. So give them time to read it silently. They understand it much better comparing to when they are reading something aloud. Even adults. When you read something adult and then later you ask some questions, they need, okay, give me a minute. They go through it silently again, right? But reading aloud to check pronunciation and intonation, that's fine. That's fine. Here is an example. Okay? So they read something. The teacher asks them for children and teenagers. The teacher asks them, I want you to read the text and draw a picture. So
Hmm.
you can understand their how well they comprehend, you know? Because that text was about the shop and milk yard, the cottage. And even you can ask them, okay, can you explain your drawing to the class? So they use the words and they use the structure to tell to the class, right? To tell the story to the class. You
Okay.
can ask them to role play. So they read the text and then they act. Kinesthetic students love this.
Mm.
Or even you can ask them how well you like or how much you like the text. Which part do you like most? So they explain to you which part they like it more, which part of the reading. Or do they like it or they don't like it? If they don't like it, why? If they like it, why? Okay. Different games based on the reading. You can put the students in two groups and then ask the other group about the reading. What else is jigsaw reading? Let me show. This is the how to put them in the contest, like talking about weather, and then they go through it and answer to the question. True, false question is for scanning. They have to scanning to find which one is true or false. But look at this reading. This is a reading for like level 5 or 6. So this kind of reading, which is one topic, but there are different paragraphs, and different paragraphs are under the topic, but they're not related to each other. You know what I mean? So like here it said, what does your hairstyle? So one is talking about Egypt. Number 2 talks about Japan. Number 3 talks about Africa. And number 4 talks about Europe. So all of them are talking about hairstyle. But to understand paragraph 2, which is Japan, you don't need to read paragraph 1. You know what I mean? So they're
Yes.
separate part. So one way of teaching is jigsaw reading. Like here, jigsaw reading. So how it works is you start with a topic about hairstyle and you say, hey, is there a specific hairstyle you like? What's a trendy hairstyle nowadays? So they understand, oh, the text is about hairstyle. Number 2, if there are any keywords like culture, maybe they don't know, you have to pre-teach. Like powder, wigs. They don't know the meaning of wigs. You have to pre-teach. Then you ask them to skim it and very general question. Which countries is it talking about? They go through it very quickly and it's number 1 is about Egypt, 2 is about Japan and so on. So very good. So you put the students and like depends on the number of the students in 4 groups or in 5 groups. But the thing is, you have 4 paragraphs. So each group should be 4 students. 4 students group A, 4 students group B, 4 students group C. So you ask them, go through it and share with each other what's the main idea or which countries it talks about. So once they skimming and tell each other, then it said, okay, now we need expert group. So it means each group 4 students. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then ones together. So student 1 of each group comes to expert group. 2's together. So student 2 of each group comes together. 3's together and 4's together. So ones, which one group on the number 1 student, I want you only study paragraph 1. 2's, I want you only study paragraph 2. So each expert groups study 1 paragraph. They discuss that paragraph and they make questions, or maybe they make an activity for that. They are expert groups. You monitor the groups, and after like 5 minutes, it's like, get back to your original group. So when they get back, student 1 explain about the first paragraph because he was in the expert group. Student 2 explain about paragraph 2. Student 3 explain about paragraph 3. And student 4 explain about paragraph 4. So in this way, the students learns better and they take the role of the teacher. You know what I mean? Is that
Yes.
clear? That's
Yep.
jigsaw reading. And children and especially teenagers love that.
Huh.
And they're active all the time. They don't get bored.
Okay.
The important thing, and actually the challenging thing nowadays for our teachers is people don't like to read. based on the data. They want to listen. That's why we have audiobooks. But it's good to mention that when you read more, when you see the sentences, when students see the words, they become a better writer
Sure,
because
I
they
believe.
learn the spelling as well, you know? But there should be an intention. They need a motivation. Okay. So teachers actually need to be very creative how to motivate the students to read.
Money. You give the
Yeah.
money.
Yes. Yeah, that way it works. And but the teacher should be really rich.
Exactly, exactly.
So one way is just we choose the topic that the students like, or make some activities that they like they like to do a project, they like to watch something, and we need to show teachers need to show enthusiasm, asking some questions and make the class active for them. Okay, this is
Yeah.
very important. Otherwise it's going to be really hard to convince the student to read.
I find that the younger you are, the more open you are, to reading. Actually,
Yes.
it's a badge of like honor, for them to, oh, oh my gosh, I was able to read this book. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's true.